And welcome back to another episode of State of Wrestling. This is the MatStats Show, along with our regular hosts, Glenn Gormley and Kevin Hazard. I'm Jason Bryant. Today, joined by distinguished member of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, two-time NCAA champion, the pin master of all pin masters, and holder of numerous records, Wade Chalice joining with us. We're going to talk a little bit about the wonderful world of scoring. Last episode, we talked about the dual meet scoring, which Wade has actually recently chimed in. Actually, if I have it here, I do have it here, in the latest edition of Win Magazine, talking about the topics that we talked about last time. Of course, a couple different aspects of it, but all agreeing that we need to do something with the dual meets. Now, today, we're getting into a little bit more of what could be changed, what needs to be changed, things of that nature with the tournament system. And before we get into any of that, we'll say welcome, Wade. We've had several shows over the years. You've known Glenn and Kevin for a lot longer probably than I have. So one, welcome to the program, and two, never short of opinions is Mr. Chalice.
Thank you all. I guess I have an opinion or two somewhere along the line, but I've spent a lot of time studying the sport, and I've got 71 years of life behind me, and a few bruises on my body from experiences I didn't want to have. But anyhow, I hope I can add something to the show today. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, Glenn.
Oh, thank you for coming up, Wade. I just wanted to start the show out. We're really lucky to have Wade Chalice, a legend of the sport, on. Today is episode 13. It's about tournament scoring, team tournament scoring. Okay, the title is If Not Now, When? If Not You, Who? This is part one of it. Okay, it's the reason we're having two parts on this is because we don't want to rush through anything. MatStats believes this is such an important topic to cover. We want everyone to know what's going on. Okay. There's something we say a lot in the statistical world. Common sense is something I know that you don't. Okay. And what I mean by that is we have some people that really know the sport that might be listening to us. They might understand the dual meet scoring and perhaps even team scoring in the tournament, but the average fan does not. Jason brought up a good question with me last night when we were talking. He said, of the 18,000 people at the NCAA tournament, how many of them really understand how the team scoring works? Well, I'll talk from a guy that has been in the William Mary Suite since 1986 every year, and we have all types of rocket scientists, brain surgeons, attorneys, and very few of them, if any, understand the team scoring. And Kevin, tell us your little story about team scoring here real quick before we start. What you noticed this past week?
Well, what we did is when we were kind of proving the point on the scoring is we went back and did a couple of tournaments. I took the 2001 tournament, and with the new method that we're going to talk about, I did it right away. I had to look it up almost every time how to score each individual match for tournament. Is it 1.5? Is it 2? Is it 2.5? And then when we got to adding in the bonus points, it got even harder. And then we went to wrestlebacks, it got even harder. I couldn't do it. I had to think it through every time with the old method of scoring.
And that's a perfect example for me here. What I'm trying to do here, what MatStats is trying to do, is get something that the fans can understand and follow more. There's a Super Bowl party that everybody goes to in this country. You might not know anything about football, but you sure as heck knows how much a touchdown's worth and a field goal, et cetera. Okay, so people can follow it. Now, one thing I want to do before we get in this, the opinions expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect anything of the NWCA. We are a subsidiary of the NWCA. And also, the opinions on this show that one of the four of us might be saying doesn't mean the other ones agree with it. Okay. MatStats, I use the term in generality to give everyone credit, but the majority of the work and the PowerPoints on this are done by Gormley. So when Gormley says MatStats or something, that doesn't mean everybody agrees with him, and that's fine. Okay. I can be held responsible for anything that might go wrong. I was a businessman for 30 years. I'm used to that. Okay. So we have a think tank here, and sometimes we agree with each other, sometimes we disagree, just so everyone knows where we're coming from on this. Now, with the team scoring, okay, When I say MatStats here, just say it's mainly Gormley. MatStats is saying we need to change the tournament team scoring without affecting the noticeable outcomes of the team standings. The current system is just too confusing. Okay. The last two MatStats episodes, 11 and 12, we dealt with dual meet scoring and other scoring, how it's gone up and down the past couple years. We are continuing this. Okay. In life, change is inevitable. Change for the better is a full-time job. And I'm not so sure we've had anybody in this digging in as deep as MatStats has dug into the past couple months on this team scoring. If we have, I haven't heard about them. Okay. What's the best motto? Okay, we've all heard the KISS thing, and wrestling legend Wade Chalice actually said that to me in a phone call. And that's the reason I want to keep it right up front. We keep it simple, stupid. Okay, it is not simple now. Okay, a lot of the casual and loyal fans do not understand at all the dual meet nor the touring tournament scoring. Okay, what we're using here is MOV, or margin of victory. It uses all point differentials. Okay. We have 15 different team scores available, excluding pins and defaults, where the current system has 3. Okay. So total, we have 16, they have 4. Tournament scoring is even more confusing. Many of the diehard fans don't even understand it. Okay. Now, we took a couple polls, okay, recently on Twitter. Our social media girl has done some polls for us. Granted, the first couple only had 9 votes and 12 votes. But the first poll was, do you think casual sports fans understand dual meet scoring? 100% of them said no. The second poll was, do you think colleges should try a change in the current system? It was 50-50. The third poll, we actually got 61 votes. It was, if more fans understand the dual meet scoring, would it make the match more exciting for a greater number of the fans? Well, it was 51-49, so almost dead even. This is showing, with the small window of people we had vote, there is interest in a change. Okay? Now, let me hear some feedback here from Kevin, Wade, and Jason before I roll into how to keep it simple.
Well, based on
so
the margin of victory. So just to give you a recap, and if you don't know what we're talking about, I would encourage you to pause, go back and listen to those episodes or watch those episodes, then come back, because this is it's an ongoing series with it. But the one thing I like about the margin of victory, it is simple. Now, I don't think anybody is going to be bringing a big ledger, so to speak, because you got 32, 33 person brackets, and you have 68 teams. Nobody's going to keep that old cross sheet that you used to hand score this tournament prior to GIMP and people like that running the tournament in the software. So you're going to keep your own team. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So then it's like, all right, what? Hey, Spencer Lee, what? You got a fall? Okay, 20. Hey, what did DeSanto do? Tech fall? All right, it's 15. Hey, what happened? What happened with? Okay, he lost. Okay, so we didn't get anything there. So, those type of things, it's easy to keep up versus, okay, yeah, diehards know, and I guess Iowa might be a bad example because they're diehards, but at the same point, okay, it's to Kevin's point, okay, well, what round is this? Okay, we get 1 there for the advancement. When do we get the placement points? Okay, after the quarters. Now, when do we hit, okay, it's a half point. All right, okay, the tech fall, you get near fall points. Oh, wait, that rule doesn't exist anymore? Okay, so every tech fall is 1.5, right? So all these little nuances, and back to Glenn's point about the multiple types of scoring, fall, default, they're 2 in a dual. One thing I had when I got into the sport when I was 15 years old was, why is it scored one way in a dual meet and another way in a tournament? So why is a fall 6 points in a dual meet and only 2 points in a tournament? That's one thing that has always kind of been like, why do we have 2 different scoring systems in the same sport? They're not different sports. This is not comparing like the international style to their collegiate style. Those are 2 different systems. They have 2 different scoring systems. But why do we have? Okay, well, because they bracket it this way, it's 1, 1.5, and 2, and because it's team versus team. but that can also be in a bracket. Dual meet advancement tournaments. I mean, these are things that, like, the barrier to entry to, like, the kid who's interested in sports, like I was at 15, I'm like, what? And here I am, 43 years old, still having an issue with, why do we score it two different ways? So that's my basic opinion on why I feel like a change is needed, whether it be dual meets, whether it be tournaments.
Another thing that it has happened to scoring over the years, and if you go back even to the 1920s and all the way to the 30s and the 40s, every couple of years they kind of tweaked it, and so we've got a system that's got 100 years of tweaks in it, and so that's made it, every time you tweak it, you make it more complicated. So one of the things we really liked about the way we came up with this, it's simple, and if this would happen to be done, you just have to fight to keep it simple and not tweak it every 3 years and change the scoring. Well, it's not quite fair, so let's add a half a point for this. You know, that we'd start back down the same road.
Okay, my turn, I guess.
Yes, Wade, go ahead.
If Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos or Larry Ellison bought wrestling, what would they do? They would do it so they could make money. We are not planning this to make money, and that's where we're wrong. We have to survive in the sport. And right now, for the last 150 years, we've been on food stamps and at the mercy of athletic directors who may allow us to continue wrestling or may not allow us to continue wrestling. And I like the idea of we should be consistent through, we need to motivate the athlete, and we need to score points, and we need to have the same system in scoring at the tournament level as well as the dual meet level. Now, some of you people, and of course, have heard me preaching about a point earned is a point scored in dual meets. It's simple, it's to the point. But let me start here on your what we're seeing on the screen here. You've asked people their opinions. God help me for saying this. I don't care about the fans we currently have. I love them to death. But their opinion doesn't count, because no matter what we do or decide here, which is not going to make a damn bit of difference, but what the Rules Committee does or doesn't do, those 200,000 fans, I made that number up nationally between elementary, middle school, high school, and college. And as Jason mentioned, we have 20,000 to show up at the NCAAs every year, but it's the same 20,000 until someone dies. So it's not really, we don't have a lot of fans. You may upset those fans. I don't care if we upset them. They're going to come to the matches anyhow. Now, they may bitch, but they'll bitch from the seats in the arena. They're not going to not come. What I'm really concerned about is the 20 million fans, potential fans, that would enjoy wrestling if we can make it enjoyable for them, who would then show up. I want those 20 million. I don't care about the 200,000. I do, but I don't. We're talking about a business, you're Larry Ellison. If we tried to sell this concept on Shark Tank, how would Cuban or Barbara Corcoran or Kevin O'Leary, what would they say about what we're trying to offer them as a potential company? They would blow us out of the water. We have to sit down and try to figure out what we're going to do to get those 20 million that we don't have. If you want to have consistency between the two on a point earned, there's a point scored that I set up in the dual meet, just take that over to the tournament. For every Jimmy wins 5-2 in the first round, his team gets 5 points, the other kid gets 2 points. You don't get points for placing in first or second or third. That gets to be confusing, and it's not necessary. If you win the tournament, you've had at least 5 matches, if not 6. So you've had 5 times the opportunity to score a shitload of points. Okay? So, you're getting extra points for winning the tournament or being in the finals just because you have an opportunity to score more points. And if you want your team to win, you've got to score more points. So that, if you don't think the coaches won't be screaming at them to score more points and stop this 3-2 down block at the edge, keep the referee off your ass for the last 2 minutes, where everybody else goes up and gets a Coke and goes to the bathroom because they're bored to tears. They know, Johnny's losing 5-2, with a minute and a half to go. Nothing's going to happen for the next minute and a half, so they can go to the bathroom and go get a Coke. Whereas if an extra point, an extra escape makes a difference in the team score, everyone's still in their seats, screaming like hell, get off the bottom. The coach is having a stroke on the mat side. Again, cut him loose, take him down, turn out, get off the bottom. They're screaming for those more points. You want to keep it simple, you put a point on the board, your team gets a point. Ta-da. And really, you're going to see the same teams are going to win.
Yeah. Thank you for that input, Wade. Now, let me go back and try to explain what the margin of victory is. As Jason said, you might want to go back and watch episode 12, but I'll try to explain it real quickly here where you see the slide on the screen. It's the same margin of victory scoring in the tournament as it was in the dual meets. You get a point for each margin of victory, up to 15. All techs are worth 15, a pin's worth 20, a bye's worth 0. There will be no change on that. It'll be used consistently. That will keep it simple. People will understand that. Okay. Wade and I have talked about this on the phone before, and we disagree on margin of victory versus every point scored is a point earned. Okay. The reason I like the margin of victory, it really comes out the same way. Whether you beat somebody 10-0 or 20-10, it all comes out a 10-point advantage. However, in a tournament, in a dual meet, it's one team against another team. In a tournament, you're out there, there's 60, 70, 80 teams in there. There could be a team that has nothing to do with the team placement. You could get into a little bit of an NBA All-Star game where somebody just doesn't care because his team's not involved in it. If it's every team thing. It's an interesting thing that Wade brings up, but from the numbers I've done with this, it works better with the margin of victory. I respect Wade or anybody else's opinion that does this. Kevin Hazard brought up to me, my old coach and another legend from the sport and from the PSAC with Wade, Gray Simons, when they had the black points, got DQ'd from the Olympics, even though they didn't lose. So of course they changed the rule on that. Also, let's just say a heavyweight match is out there and the guy loses, but he scores enough points even though to get his butt whooped to put his team over the top. That would look kind of weird. Okay. So that we can go into further, but this is a long show. We don't want to keep it too much. Another way to how to keep it simple, slide 9, Jason, is placement. There's only 2 ways you will score in the margin of victory in the team points in the tournament. The first one's the same you score at in the dual meet, the margin of victory. The second one is placement. Next time you're at a tournament, ask people in the stands what the points are for the top 8 place winners. You'll be lucky to find a few people that know. Okay. Even if you tell it to them, which I do in the suite every year, the same person asks me again 20 minutes later. Okay. I've done a lot of math on this to figure out how to change the team points. You see it in the slide here that Jason has on the screen. The MOV system goes 80, 70, 60, boom, 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 all the way down to 10 for 8. How do you remember this? You take the first digit and you add it to the place, and it equals 9. So, Kevin, somebody coming in 5th place, you don't need to look at this. How many points does he get? 40, because 5 plus 4 equals 9. Okay. Now, in the current systems up there, it's really difficult to figure all that out. Okay. And if you notice one thing in the current system, we'll get to this later, the difference between 3rd and 4th, 5th and 6th, and 7th and 8th is 1 point. Okay. Now, what are these numbers in the red? That is the multiplier of the margin of victory over the current system. The magic number you see is about 5.5 coming up on everything. The only difference we see there is 8th place. There's only 3 1/3 there. Okay. The easy ways to remember when somebody gets points on the Gormley margin of victory placement system. There are 3 times you get points in the championship round. The first time is in session 3, the quarters. You get 30 points, session 3, 3rd round. The 4th round, session 4, you get 40 points. In all the placement bouts, whether it be 1st, 3rd, 5th, or 7th, you get 10. Okay? All these placement points are added to the MOV points as the winner earns them, just like in the current system. Okay. As far as the consies, it's a little bit different, more difficult to remember, but it starts out in what we call the blood round and goes 10 bonus placement points, 20 the next round, the second round Friday night, then 20 the first round Saturday morning, and then 10 in the third, fifth, and seventh place. It's a lot easier for the fans to remember the placement points. As far as advancement points, which people struggle with all the time, there are no advancement points in the Gormley system. They are baked into the margin of victory. You will see where we keep on getting the same 5.5 number, basically. Right now, people get confused, including the godfather of William Mary Wrestling, Kevin Hazard, who had trouble adding it up. He got mixed up. The championship is 1, the consi's a half. Boom, boom, boom. Also, you don't get an advancement point for winning in the first round bout. I mean, the first place bout, the third place bout, fifth and seventh place bout. It mixes people up. Okay. So it's a much easier system. Okay. We want to have people, whether they're scoring at home, whether they're live, whatever they're doing, what they're trying to do, whether they have a nice JID poll in the thing and they want to know who's winning. It seems the smartest guy in the William Mary Suite's a guy that didn't go to school there. Zach wins our pool every year because he seems to be the only one who can figure it out. Okay, so couple
why do
things
we have
here.
This so complicated? I'm not following this, and I'm seeing it for the first time. I apologize, but you get this, you get that. KISS, keep it simple. I mean, no. Incentivize the athletes to wrestle more and simplify the scoring. We lose every year. All of the fans we don't have that never answer these questions, on a poll because you don't know who they are, and neither do I. It's very complex. Keep it simple. You put a point on the board, you get a point for the team. Da-da. You put the basketball through the basketball, you get 2 points. Da-da. You cross the finish line or cross the end zone in the football, you get 6. And no matter whether it's a running play, a fumble pickup, a passing play, it's 6 points. They don't care what the runs.
I know we disagree on the total score and the margin of victory. I'll explain to you why there's placement points as we go further in the show, okay, and the need for them. Okay.
Well, if you are wrestling more matches because you're going further in the tournament, it's the same as placement points. When you go to the next round because you won, eventually you're getting up into the placement points. But every round that you wrestle is another opportunity to score 1, 2, 3, 5, 8 points. So, you're getting placement points by going to the next round. The placement is you're in the next round.
Yeah, I respect what you're saying, and I thought about that originally. But then when I did the math, the placement points were a necessity. And we'll get to that in a second, Wade. Okay, and then I'll let you hear your opinion after that.
Well,
okay.
let's talk about total points. Wade, you brought up the point, let them go take them down. Let them go take them down. So now let's say you have a 40 to 25 bout. Now, the guy who scores 25 really by doing nothing gets 25 points for his team. The other guy actually gets 40. But that's not really fair. The margin of victory, you get 15 points for your team for the tech, and that's a whole lot fairer than giving that guy 25 points.
Well, when was the last time you saw a 40 to 25 match? You still have a tech fall, a difference, I hear that, but the fan doesn't give a shit like we care. The fan just wants to see action. We've got to give them action for them to give us their money. And if we don't give them action, however we get that action, I'm sorry that Cale Sanderson might be saying that's not fair, but it's the way it is. Learn to wrestle with it. Have your kids score more points, coach. Have your kids put the guys on his back, coach. I'm interested in the people in the stands. I don't care what the coaches feel is fair or not fair, or he should really have a half more point for something. It's a business, and we're not treating it as a business.
Yeah, I respect that, Wade. And one of the things I believe that either the shallow system or the Gormley system will help increase action and maybe scoring is if you look at slide 15, Jason, it shows that the scoring was down from 88 to 92 to 2017-22 by 10%. Okay. However, the next slide explains that it didn't affect the margin of victory. Okay. So the scoring was down on both the winner and the loser. All right. It was a little bit under 5-point margin of victory in both those time frames. Okay. Now, if we go to slide 17, it shows that there's a bunch of math there that if somebody wants to take their time and do a deep dive, if they're a guy like me that loves stats, there you go. And we explained that on the last show. Slide 18 is the same thing, but for the different time frame. Slide 19 shows us that the MOV scoring system with pins and defaults is basically 6.6 points for the 10-year period. And it was the same thing from 98 to 92 as it was from 17 to 22. They're very close. Nothing moved on that. Okay. So what we did there, you see slide 20, that means the average points per bout in a dual meet will be 6.68 or in the tournament. And then, of course, you'd be adding your placing points. Okay, now, slide 21, on this, the numbers we're using, we use it a lot in the 2017 versus the 2022 when I went back and figured out everything because we knew that 88 to 92 was consistent with that. So we didn't have to look at 660 more matches because we already did that for the dual meet stuff. Okay. Now, here's where it gets interesting, and then Wade will address your thing in a little bit further down the thing. If you go to slide 22, okay, what this is by day, it's broken down Thursday a.m., Thursday p.m., in other words, session 1, session 2. This is all Thursday on this slide. It compares the MOV to the current. On your left in red, it has the place winners, and it has a placement for the MOV. Okay. We don't have the placement there for the current system. I probably should have put it there because that's the one that nobody knows. Okay. This shows you. We'll start with the Thursday AM. The first row, points per win, advanced bonus and placement. This compares the MOV to current. And you will see that it's almost always in the multiple of 5.5. Okay? It also shows you the percent of points in the round, the percent of matches in the round. It shows you a lot of data. Okay? And the total points for the round for everybody. That 7.43 and 1.54 is just for each individual win. Okay? Now, ask me any questions on this, guys, and I'll try to fill everyone in, and then we'll go to Friday and Saturday. Go ahead, everyone. Weigh in.
Kevin, have at it.
Well, I think you need to look at it in the aggregate for all the rounds because I think it gets interesting when you get more interesting when you get into Saturday.
Okay. So we'll go to Friday next, of course, where there are, the quarters, the semis, and then you have 4 wrestlebacks. And basically you can see the percentage of points are almost the same in the MOV and the current system. So you know that the team that should win is going to win in both of these. Okay. There's no scoring system you could come up with anything that's fair that wouldn't have had Penn State winning last year when you win 5 weight classes of the 10. All right. And in this thing here, it shows you when the placement points come in. They first come in session 3, which of course is 30 points. It's the third round. Okay. Then on Saturday, you see where the big difference is. On the 3rd, 5th, and 7th place. In the Gormley system, it's 17. In the current, it's about 1.5. And this is because you only score 1 point for going from 8th to 7th or 6th to 5th or 4th to 3rd. Okay. Now, of course, if you get a technical or a pin or a major, you get more points. But the average score in this was 1.49. And that includes an inordinate amount of defaults. because a lot of people after a long tournament have been defaulting in that round. So there is a problem. Okay. Basically, the current system downgrades the 3rd, 5th, and 7th place bout and does not make it as important as it should be because, the 3rd place bout's pretty darn important in the tournament. And you're scoring more points in the 32nd, 33rd bout than you are 3rd, 4th. Okay. Slide 25 is another big.
Can I break in there, Gorms?
Sure, Kevin, break in anytime.
The way that shows up to talking about, Wade's talking about making it, more exciting. That's the least attended round in the Nationals every year, and it's because it really there is no excitement, like Gorm said, and it's because there's no point scored. It's 1 point, team point. So by changing it, I think more people comes to that Saturday morning round.
I think the only thing that's really going to change people coming to that round is what time the bars close on.
That's also very true.
Saturday,
on
Friday night. That's the one thing. That's the only thing from experience I have to add to this discussion. So.
Yeah, I've seen Jason in my bar a few times at 2 a.m, but he made it out to practice the next day.
I didn't make it to practice. I was at your bar though. Blame David Carter.
Okay.
Oh wait, that was next door.
Yeah, I appreciate the patronage. So,
Glenn,
the next slide 25 here, Jason. Oh, go ahead. Wait, we better say something. Excuse me. I'm
on the East Coast. I'm in Los Angeles right now. And when Clemson is going to play Alabama in football and the kickoff's at noon, that means it's 9 o'clock here. And it doesn't matter when the bars are closed or open. I'm on TV. I'm up, blurry-eyed maybe, when I'm watching the Clemson-Alabama football game at 9 in the morning. Okay, people will show up. And I know it was a joke, and it was a good one. Attaboy, Kevin. But anyhow, the idea is it has to be fun to watch. It has to be worthy to get up. Stats that you put together, Glenn, and they're amazing. All the things here. Statistics show you what has happened in each round, each year. It doesn't show you what could be. History hasn't been kind to our sport. We've been wrestling for almost 150 years, and we're still on food stamps. The UFC has been around for 25 years, and they're a multi-billion-dollar company because they didn't say, well, this is not fair to the athlete, or we have to worry about what the coach has to say. They want to know what the TV wants to say. There's a reason why Ben Askren never made it in the UFC. A great wrestler, a very good UFC fighter, but he was boring in the UFC. He would take a guy down and just ride him to death. So there was no kicking, and there was no screaming and punching and knockouts, unless he got knocked out in 4 seconds at one time. That was really a bad one. But they didn't want him on TV, and they didn't want him in the UFC because he was boring. We have to stop boring. That's our problem. Once we have that, we need new stats that'll show the excitement. We need 20 million people. How the hell are we going to get them? And it's not by analyzing the 3rd round, 2nd match at the one weight class where it was a mismatch, or this guy was a little tired and he got taken down 5 times extra, and now it was 10-5 instead of 10-4. Every coach is screaming, having a stroke, Matt's side, when every point counts toward the team score. I have to believe if we went back and scored, which would change dramatically next year from last year, so I don't like so much of the stats. If we went back and scored last year's NCAAs for every point put on the board as a point earned, I think the same teams number 1 would still win Penn State. Iowa would be number 2, or Oklahoma State or Michigan. The top dogs are going to be the top dogs. They know how to win, and they will adapt to whatever rules you give them. Sanderson, and Brands, its company, will adapt to them, and the athletes will adapt to them. You're going to have the same winners. It's just going to be easier for the fans because we're confusing. There's a reason why half the questions on Jeopardy every night, you and I can answer at home, because it makes us feel halfway intelligent. If the Jeopardy questions were so tough that we couldn't get any of them, the fans would stop watching, and there would not be a Jeopardy on TV, because you've elevated to basically telling all the spectators, fans of Jeopardy. That's just stupid. You shouldn't be watching this because it makes you feel bad. We make our fans feel bad because they can't figure it out. And when you get a new fan, he sits down next to Kevin and says, "Hey, what was the score on that? What happened there?" Kevin has to explain everything. You don't have to explain anything to a basketball fan for the first time. It went through the hoop, 2 points. Oh, I get it. That's what we need to do. However we do that, we got to keep it simple. And to get a 2.3 here in a second round or third round, we're just killing ourselves. We've got to get out of this mindset. Well, that's not fair. I have to worry about the way it's been. Again, put Mark Cuban and Bill Gates together, and they're going to change everything. It'll blow your mind, but they're going to make some money. And that's what we have to do. But anyhow, I'm going back and beating the horse, I think, a couple of times. Glenn, you're doing a great job. I love all these stats, but
thank you, Wade. Thank you. And the slide that Jason has up on the screen here, everything highlighted in red is close to the 5.5 multiple. The stuff in green shows you how close the MOV is to the current system. Now, on the next slide, 26. Okay, including advancement points in MOV would be double counting. It's a superfluous task. I don't know if anybody here knows about the OPS in baseball. It's on base percentage plus slugging percentage. It's a neat little thing and all, but statistically, it's totally a flawed number. It does give you knowledge of who's really good in baseball. Don't get me wrong. But as a statistician, it's a bad stat. It's one that every announcer uses on TV. They could have another stat that would actually be accurate and not drive me and guys like Bill James crazy. Okay, so that way does address one of your points about making it simple, eliminating the advancement points. Now, getting to why we need the placement points, Wade, to address one of Wade's concerns he stated a little bit ago on the show. Slide 27 shows you under the current system, this is the arithmetic mean for the past tournaments for the place there. It says first, second, all the way down to eighth. That is the amount of points in the current system that place winner gets. Now you can see how tight it is between second and third.
That's what he got.
That's what he got, Wade. He got. Okay. So in other words, and the best predictor of future performance is past performance. Now, of course, if you change the rules, the future performance could be different. But this is the reason that if you had to bet on how many points somebody was going to get in the 23 tournament, use these numbers and you're more likely to win than not. Okay, he'll be in that ballpark. Now, you can see how close a lot of these places are. In other words, we've all learned earlier that a pin's worth 2 extra points. One more pin by a lower placer, and he's passing that person. Now it happens. It's going to happen. And the next slide explains it. The lower placer can easily score more points on the current system. It's inherent in the system. Okay. And of course, the second place guy only wins 4 bouts. Of course, the third place guy's got to win at least 5. Okay. So there's a chance that this is happening in every single tournament. I can't tell you which third place is going to outscore the second, but I can guarantee it's going to happen. Okay. In the margin of victories scoring system on 27, here you see, Wade, this includes all the 6.6 number of points the first place guy would win, okay, times the 5, and then his 80 bonus points. Okay, if the placement points, excuse me. You can see how tight these things are. If there's no placement points, it's almost better for a team to lose in the first round and come through and wrestle all those things back. I mean, I know it sounds like a crazy thing, but if that wins you the national title, and let's just say your coach is getting paid a bonus for winning a national title, which I hope they all are if they're winning a national title, just like, you're talking about the Dabo Sweeney and Nick Saban, they each got a big bonus for winning that game. Okay, so if you don't have the placement points in there, it really invites this crazy scenario.
I would think
Go ahead, Wade.
that I don't know one athlete, well, at least at the high end, that would say, when the coach says, "Hey, lose the first round and we'll win the tournament." Coach, screw yourself and your tournament win. I'm going to win a national championship for me, and that's why I'm doing this. Every wrestler that I know would tell the coach to go take a leap of faith and not do that.
I agree with you, Wade, but let's think about this. A sport that dominates us in March every year, March Madness. The coach tells his players to deliberately violate the rules and foul somebody to let them shoot a one-on-one and chance of getting the basketball back, because that's what the rules are. I'd like to agree with you, Wade, and think that would be great. But think about this. Even if somebody doesn't intentionally lose, if somebody could score more points coming in a lower place, and it's a lot easier without the placement points, it really makes our sport look kind of cheesy. So I understand what you're saying, and I respect it. But just being a statistician, this is why I'm offering it this way for anybody else who's, watching at home or going to watch the show eventually.
I would prefer, if I had my druthers, which I'm one voice in the dark, to make it as simple as possible, which is I think we're all trying to do that, so that everybody who walks in from the street for the very first time, someone gives a friend, here's a ticket, and he sits down, he can understand what the hell's going on. The athletes can figure it out, and it's simple. I don't care necessarily if it's somehow unfair to somebody. No matter what the rule is, no matter how you explain this, it's always unfair to somebody. You just say, these are the rules, play to it. And now how do we play to it? I want people to score as many damn points as they can and give them credit for the points they sell, because that's what puts butts in seats. It's the energy of the athlete. And right now, most everything teaches the slow down approach to wrestling. Slow down, get your 1 point win. You win by 1 point, you get 3 team points in a dual meet. Win by 7 points, you get 3 team points. Why are you risking 6 more points, 6 times as much, to get no additional points whatsoever? It makes no sense. There's no incentive there. It's, keep it close, keep it stupid, low, and get your hand raised, because the crowd goes, yay, if he wins by 1 or if he wins by 6. There's no incentive to go up. We have to find a way to incentivize and keep it simple for the crowd.
But you're speaking for margin of victory, because that's exactly what this does. Because if margin of victory, if I win by 7, I get 7 points. If I win by 1, I get 1 point. So said exactly.
I'm for margin victory. I'm for that. I'm for margin of victory. Yeah. I don't want to give them, if you win 7-1, your team gets 10 points or whatever. I made that up.
That's 6.
You should get the 7 points. That's what you earned. If you kick a field goal, they don't give you 6 points for style as well as the 3 points you made. It either goes through the uprights or it doesn't. 3 points or nothing. It's simple. Everybody understands that.
Yeah. And that's basically where Wade and I disagree, is it gets to the same number at the end of the day. Gormley's saying margin of victory, Wade's saying total points. And I respect his opinion on that. So I want everyone to realize this, that it says in the next slide, there is a problem with lower place winners scoring more points with team points. And like Wade says, that's life. You see plenty of football games where a team has more yards but doesn't win the game. Okay, that happens on a weekly basis. Okay,
exactly.
And it's just the way the rules are. Okay, this is just the way it is, because there's more matches in the wrestlebacks than there are. The second place guy only wins 4 bouts, unless he comes from 32, 33, which is never happened. I know it's only been a short time. We've seated 33 people. So, okay. The next slide 31, Chase, shows you the point differential between the places in the margin of victory and the current system. And of course, you see that in red. A lot of the 5.5 are close to it. You do see where in some of the things it's closer in the margin of victory. It's going to happen. But my hope is that we promote more action and more excitement. And we'll get into it in part 2 of this show where we believe this will work. Okay. A lot of what Wade's been preaching here. So the reward for changing to MOV over current system far outweigh the risk. Okay. With the scoring rule in MOV, the wrestlers could be likely to alter their action to score more points. This could reduce the likelihood of a lower placed wrestler scoring above him. Okay. It also predictably will increase action. This will be good for the sport. What sport doesn't want more action, right? Margin of victory is easier system for the fans, rabid or casual, to understand the scoring system. The risk is very small to have a great upside, and that's why I'm really pounding the drum here to change the scoring. Now let's try to wrap this part of part 1 up, guys, and then I'll say some things at the end. I'd like some input from Kevin, Jason, and Wade on this before I wrap up part 1. Jason, we haven't heard from you for a while.
Oh, you got 3,000 slides you're throwing at me, so I'm just trying to drive the boat for you. One thing, and I want to point this out, and I kind of brought this up at the beginning where it was confusing. Having spent more time in getting people to come to wrestling matches, I've always brought them to a dual meet, or I went to a dual meet in January of 1995. It was the first time I'd ever seen wrestling in person. It was a simple dual meet. Now, granted, 3, 4, 5, 6 was all I had to remember, but as I got into the sport more, the nuances of, wait a minute, it's not 3, 4, 5, 6 in a tournament. I explained that earlier. Getting people in to dual meets is where that's where our outreach is. That is where we grow the fan bases, introducing them to a 2-hour event, an hour and a half to 2-hour event. Okay. I think we all kind of agree in that regard where a dual meet scoring. Now, the tournament scoring, again, my opinion here is, again, we have and this is, again, to our disclaimer, this is not the NWCA talking, we have 75% approximately of our college wrestling schedules are team versus team, dual meets, especially more in Division II, Division III, and the NAI where you have more quads. You don't have the tri-meet and the quad in Division I nearly as much because allegedly those athletes beat each other up more, so you don't really see a tri-meet with 3 Big Ten teams. It just doesn't happen. You may have a Big Ten team, and let's throw a mid-level MAC team or SoCon team in there, or a Division II team or something. You don't really you're never going to see Iowa, Penn State, Minnesota, and let's throw Missouri in from the Big 12 in a single quad. It's just not going to happen. So take that out of the equation. We look at how many dual meets these teams have each year, and then our tournament conference title and our NCAA championship or NAIA championship are determined by a system that isn't wrestled except for maybe an invitational. Opens don't keep team scores, and a conference championship. That is it. So we determine a national championship in a way that we don't do most of the competition. So to me, looking at this coming from outside of wrestling, 25 years ago, okay, well, this is unlike a lot of other sports. It's an individual sport, but we have a team component to it. So that is where I feel the tournament scoring system, to be quite honest to me, is stupid. I just find it completely, I guess it's kind of anticlimactic in terms of how you determine a champion, because if 75% of your schedule is wrestled as a dual meet and you have, let's take Penn State, they could have won the tournament with those 5 guys. 5. That's half the team they could forfeit. They wouldn't win a dual meet if they forfeit the other 5 weights, unless the other 5 get pins, and then you have a tie, and then we got a criteria, and then that's another problem with dual meet scoring. You see, it just compounds on itself on why our sport needs to be tweaked in a manner that just makes more common sense. Glenn brought up the common sense thing earlier. So I'm if we're going to keep a system that's going to score our national championship in a way that's unlike anything else we do. Well, most of the system, Midland, Scuffle, Vegas, okay, they're tournaments. Those are mostly used by teams to get in gear. Okay, here's a simulation. We need a 2-day weigh-in later in the year. And that's why some teams like these larger conference tournaments is they can simulate their guys getting that second-day weigh-in. There's no tournament that's a 3-day weigh-in except for the last one. So, again, That is a system. Our last tournament with the place winners, those guys have to do something that they haven't done at any point during the year. So this is where I think the dual meet tournament fracture is problematic with our sport. And I don't think that is, a scoring situation is going to fix it. But if we're going to fix the tournament scoring, let's fix the tournament scoring if we're going to stay this manner. Personally, I think the dual meet's the way to determine the 10 best guys in a team situation. The individual tournament, look at New Jersey. They have 6 classes, I think, for dual meets. They have 1 tournament for the individuals, and nobody cares that there's not a team score, and Boardwalk Hall sells out. So, to Wade's point about putting butts in the seats, New Jersey doesn't have team points for their tournament, and they sell the place out. That's what I got for this one.
Let me go first, Wade. I think it would be interesting, because I hear where Wade's coming from, but I think we did some of this when we were coming up with this. Gorms, why don't we go back and for another show, just take total points versus MOV and just see what it would do to the team scoring. I think that would be an interesting thing to look at. Personally, I think MOV is much better, but and I think it's simple. I think it's easy to say, okay, 7-1, they get 6. I don't think that, I don't think that that's confusing. It's not, it's 8, so that's is that 4? Is it 8 over 8 or 8? That's where it gets confusing. But Gorms, why don't we do that on another show? Bring that. Just look at a couple of tournaments, national tournaments. See what total points would do versus MOV.
Let me jump in here real quick. I had one more thing to add. So I've been doing a lot of research on the history and documenting scoring systems and such. And when I get into the 70s, I noticed there was an era where we had a major decision, a superior, this before the tech fall. And then we get in the team score that adds 1.2 or a quarter of a point, a half a point, and 3/4 of a point. What the heck was that? Okay, that's even to the point where it's like, wait, I'm looking, it's like, how do you have, then they introduced the technical fall. And then, again, this is the over legislation of trying to make things simpler.
That's why Kevin and I have no hair. We grew up during this period and trying to keep up with the scoring.
I'm sitting there thinking, what year was it?
Remember when it went to overtime and the referee made the decision in certain cases?
Didn't you guys wrestle in robes? Never mind. All right, moving on.
Shirtless when I could still go shirtless.
Should we score an individual tournament following some of the previous thought process at all? You come to watch the individual wrestle. My thought is, again, I'm all spectator based in my thought process. And I don't care about the coach. I don't care about the athletes. I care about the spectator, because that's what's going to make us continue to be a sport. We've gone from 700-ish teams to 350 now in the last 40 years. Something's going on here that's not good for wrestling. The reason why we're dropping is there's no money in it. And today with the likeness, name, image, there's going to be less money. With the inflation the way it is now, there's going to be, unfortunately, we're going to have more problems here with wrestling. If you don't have money, you're in trouble. And for the individual scoring, just as a thought, throwing ideas out here, why don't we move the individual tournament into the end of January? No team scoring, individual wrestling. Now you have champions at the end of January, but your season's still going to go in February, March. You have 2 months to market. Come see an NCAA champion Bob Jones wrestle All-American Kevin Hazard, tonight. You can advertise and market that for the next 2 months. And then at the end, you take the top 16 teams or top 8 or top 32, whatever you want to pick up, and have a dual meet championship, of which, if you think about it, of all the other, of the 78 now teams that are D1, only 16 are going to go for the last 3 weeks of the season. So automatically you've saved a lot of money for those other 60 teams that are no longer going to be competing at the national tournament. So there's money saved there. The athletic directors are pleased as punch with that. And then you have a quarters, Sweet 16, 8, Final Four, and a dual meet national championship. You're still going to name the national champion. And you have marketing during the year, and you have more kids wrestling in the individual tournament in the end of January because you'll have less injuries that they usually mount up as the year goes on, and then more kids get knocked out of the lineup. So there's an injury issue there. I think it's a win across the board, and we get rid of all this problem of how do you score a damn tournament. Well, you don't worry about it. That's an individual tournament. No scoring. Just go get it, guys, and see who's going to be the All-Americans. Then we market them.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. I like what you're saying here, Wade, but I just want all the viewers to understand this. The numbers were not 700 back in the glory days, Wade, okay? And the sport has been growing, in the last 10 or 15 years. Jason and I have done a lot of research on this. We have it in different shows. I don't want people repeating that number and saying that they heard it here because it's an inaccurate number. So,
Okay.
But the point is, since the NCAA merged in 81, 82, it has gone down, but it's started to go back up again. But we're not remembering, not all those teams are there at the same time.
I apologize if I'm off on the 700 number.
Nope.
But I think
No problem at all.
Now, in the last 25 years, and I know this is true, there's not one D1 program that's been established that is a decent D1 program. No LSU, no Texas, no UCLA, Syracuse. All the majors have not grown at all. And the programs that we have gone up has been completely, totally based on the quality of Mike Moyer being able to go out, and he's a great asset for the sport of wrestling, to go out and go to the D1 presidents of the university and sell. If you have wrestling, you have 30 kids come out for the sport. The coach will recruit 30 kids at $25,000 a year for tuition and room and board at your institution times the 30. Now, if I give you $600,000, Mr. President, will you give me $250,000 back? And the president goes, heck yes, because the seats are vacant at the smaller D3 schools, NAIA schools. So it's a financial decision. It has nothing to do with liking wrestling. It just means that the president saves his college, knows more people have butts in seats and more money coming in and going out. So that's why we're having an increase, and it's all at the D3 level. It's not at the D1 level. So we are still hurting, and there is not one school, including Iowa and Penn State, that make money. Penn State loses money every year, even given all the numbers that they have. They spend $1.6 million and they bring in $1.5 million. It's close to breaking even, but they lose money too, and so does Iowa. We don't have one college, one high school that's making money, and that is a major problem for us. You can't keep doing that and expecting people to donate money and keep going. We've got to make some changes. We've got to bite the bullet here and not stay on the same course we're on, or we're going to be in serious trouble.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Thank you for all this. I just want to let everyone know, tune in next month, same Matt time, same Matt channel. It'll be part 2, if not now, when, if not you, who. We'll continue the statistical analysis of changing the tournament team scoring. Contact us. We'd love to hear back from you on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're at NWCA MatStats. And we have an email, nwcamatsstats@gmail.com. And if you want to go see any of our past shows, just go on to www.nwcaonline.com/MatStats. Guys, on behalf of Jason Bryant, Kevin Hazard, and our special guest, wrestling legend Wade Chalice, this is Glenn Gormley from MatStats signing off.